Hi, I'm George Carlson with the MakerBarn, and we're going to do a video today on introduction to our new CNC milling machine. And this is really intended for people at the MakerBarn, but other people may find a use in this video as well. So first step, let's just turn on the machine. You have to do that around back. I'm going to go around back and turn on the power. Start getting noisy here a little bit. This uses a Centroid operating system. It's very similar. Your MakerBarn memory, you're probably familiar with this because this is what we use on our big CNC router. It's the same system, but the machine itself is quite different. I'll start up the CNC 12. So you probably recognize some of this from the other system. All right. The machine will want to home up, so I'm going to press the cycle start green button, and the machine will start to find its home. Right now you'll notice the head is rising. The first thing is the Z movement. The 0 for the Z on this machine is all the way at the top. That's done. Now it'll start moving the X axis, and its 0 is on this end. You need to be careful around these because this thing is capable of thousands of pounds of force when it moves. If you're in the way, it wouldn't be good. And now it's finding the Y. And then, then what it's going to do is it's going to go to its tool change position. It does it fast. So, all right. A couple notes on this machine. This machine uses DC servos. Each DC servo, there's big motors, they're rather large motors. They have an encoder on the motor that encodes 5,000 steps per revolution. And then it's actually geared down to 2.75 to 1, and then driving a lead screw that's 5 turns per inch. So it's capable of micron level resolution. So it's a very precise machine. This is known as a tool room type CNC mill. It's not enclosed like a production machine, but this gives us actually a little bit more flexibility. We can't do an automatic tool change on this kind of machine, but other than that, it's fully capable of the other machine. Let's see, we've got a pendant here. They call these MPGs, manual pulse generator, and with that manual pulse generator, I can set the axis I want to do, either Z, Y, or X. I put it on Z mode. There's 3 speeds. There's ×1, ×10, and ×100. What this means is that if you put it on ×1, each click will be 1/10,000th of an inch. So I'll put it on 100 and I can crank it down and we can move pretty quick. Now you can also, as you know, if you've operated the CNC router, that we can use the panel up here. On this panel, this is not a touch screen like our other thing. We'll have to use the keyboard. But that gets us move around. We can move this where we want to. Hopefully everybody who's going to be using this machine has some experience on the Bridgeport. This is in some ways like an overgrown Bridgeport. It's what they call a bed mill. This part does not go up and down like on the Bridgeport. All of the Z movement is done with the head going up and down. There is a quill. This is called a Trak DPM, which means dual purpose machine. So in a tool room, you might have one machine that you use for a lot of different things. And you may want to use this in a manual mode. But since we have the Bridgeport, there will be no need for that. So the quill will always be all the way up and locked. This is one of the main differences between our Bridgeport and our CNC router. This spindle is a big heavy-duty spindle. We can control it from here. I'll put it on manual mode, turn it on, and you can see it can move. You can control the speed by it. And I'll go ahead and shut that down so we don't. One thing that's important to remember here, unlike, you know, if you look on YouTube, you might see a lot of references to production type CNC equipment. This is a little different. This is like the Bridgeport. It has a transmission up here that you vary the speed. Now when you set the speed in your G code, you'll be setting the speed of the motor, and that's not necessarily the spindle speed. So generally we want to keep this set at 1800. That means that we run the motor at 1800 RPM, the spindle will be moving at 1800 RPM. If we tell the motor to go to 600 RPM, the spindle will go 600 RPM. If we change this, you have to keep that in mind, that it can go up to 4200 RPM, but it's confusing because you have to reach 4200, you have to tell it to go 1800. So, best bet, just keep it there. We can't run 11,000 RPM like a lot of the other machines, you know, the big production machines. We just have to operate this more or less like an automatic Bridgeport. Let's see, let's talk a little bit about the spindle. The spindle is a taper 40, and I'm going to go over and grab a tool. So, give you an idea. This is the collet that we use in our CNC router. It's a ER20, and as opposed to these two collets, which we can use, this is ER32, which most of our tools are set up for. This is ER40. We can use that as well. The Bridgeport uses something like this, so you can see how heavy duty that is. And this is a part that fits in to the spindle. When you put this into this, it's a Cat 40 taper, it will always go the same depth within plus or minus maybe 1/1000 of an inch. And so that allows us to do something that we can't do on either the Bridgeport or the CNC router, and that is set our tools up ahead of time. So we're going to have a separate little video on how to set up tools. That's very important. To install this, you can see that this is just like the CNC router, except it's a lot larger. And we can put it in here. You can rotate this by hand so you can see these pins. These pins have to go into the slots. So when you put this in there, you have to pay attention to how it fits. And there'll already be a tool in it when you put it in here. So, and then I'm going to just hit the, and that happens sometimes. There we go. As soon as it gauges fully, then you can lock it in there good. And that's how you install that. To take it out, just back in reverse. You saw me turn it on. I went to the back, I turned it on. This thing came up with an error because somebody had turned off the machine without shutting down the window. So to shut this machine down, you do an F10, and say power off. That shuts off the power. As soon as this thing says, or disappears, it goes away. This is Windows 7, older system, but anyway, now I can turn off the main power. And there we go. Yeah, the main power switch is back here. Okay. And you can see off is horizontal, on is vertical. All right. I want to show you some of the tools that we have, and if you notice, first of all, on this tool rack, we've got these things labeled: tool 1, tool 2, 3, 4, and so on. This is for when you set up your tools, you can put them in the correct order on this rack. Less mistakes being made. Let's start off with, we've got a couple drill chucks, for instance. These are handy for, of course, for drill bits. Don't ever use it with an end mill, of course. And we've got some more down there, a big one. Most of our tooling will be held in collets. Now, this is an ER32 collet. We've got a box full of collets, and we've got some extra ones as well. Certain collets like 1/2 inch and 3/8. If you're running several tools, several end mills, you'll probably need several of the 3/8, and we have extras. So you can set them all up ahead of time. To tighten this collet, let's say if I wanted to mount an end mill in this collet, the process would be I'd take my end mill, put it in. You want it past this is called a weld-in notch. Move it past that notch, bring it up, and you can tighten it by hand. We have to get really tight. Now, we have a special fixture. What we want to do is set up tools before we put anything in the vise, because we can use the vise as a way of holding our mounting tool. So we put this in the vise, squeeze it down a bit. Now notice how this, I can move that out of the way, how this holds this, keeps it from turning. Get out the wrench, special wrench, so the ER32, and tighten that down really pretty good, because one of the problems that we have sometimes with collets is that the end mill can slide out, because remember, a collet wants to screw itself into the material. So that's important to remember. Then we would put this tool in the tool position. Like if it's a tool 1, we'd put it in the tool 1 position. All right, other holders. We've got, this has an edge finder mounted in it, and but this is what they call a side mount, or side securing type thing. It's an end mill holder, and these are used quite often. If you're going to use the same end mill for a lot of jobs, and you might want to use this kind of holder. These are dedicated. This is a 1/2-inch one. So this is dedicated for 1/2-inch end mills. It's held in place with a set screw on the side. And you can see we have those in different sizes. Here's one that's more or less permanently set up as well. This is just a center drill. You can use that for centering. We've got them up. I think this is, let's see, I think this is a 3/4 inch, and different sizes of these things. They're nice. They do a really good job of holding it in, though. Maybe not as versatile as a collet type thing, but you know. Also, let's see, here's back in this corner, we've got a spotting drill. It's more or less permanently mounted in this 1/4 inch holder. This is a big end mill. This particular end mill is only for aluminum, but it's permanently mounted here. You know, we wouldn't move it out of this holder. This is for surfacing, so that's kind of a nice tool. Sometimes if you need extra length or extra large tool, you can use this holder, and we'll probably get some more of these in the future. This is an ER40 collet, which is quite large. As you can see, it'll go up to, I believe, 1 inch in diameter. And I guess that's pretty much summed it up as far as tool holders. But they all have the 40 taper. They're called Cat 40. You can tell if it's a Cat 40 because it has this groove, and this comes up to a cone and stops. There's other holders that are 40 taper, but this is what we use. And so if you want to buy some of these, they're not too bad on Amazon. Holder like this big ER40 holder, I think was $36, so they're not too bad. And they're good quality. So that's basically what the deal is on the tool holders. And this tool is a special one. This is what we call a reference tool. It's permanently mounted, and in the next video we'll talk about how this is used. So that's about it for the tool holders. You're welcome to buy your own. Oh yeah, this one, you may want to use this before putting a new tool in. This is just helps wipe the inside to make sure that you don't have a little chip or something. If you have a chip up in here for some reason, mount a tool holder, first of all, the tool won't run properly, it'll wobble, and also you can damage the tool holder or the spindle nose, so you don't want to do that.